Opening in 1994, The Lion King became the single most successful animated film of all time, and has gone down as one of the most beloved. In a frenzy of critical and commercial praise and accomplishment, Disney quickly turned The Lion King into a multimedia franchise, releasing a number of straight-to-home media sequels and television series which have spanned the almost 3 decades since the movie's first release. With the release of Jon Favreau's photorealistic remake of the original blockbuster, I'll be ranking the entire Lion King franchise, including the 3 animated films, the remake, and the 2 television series, in order of my least to most favourite. There's plenty to cover here, so let's roar into it. Kicking us off at number 6, The Lion Guard. The latest animated installment in the franchise is this series, which began airing on Disney Junior in 2016. Lion Guard tells the story of Simba's son Kion as he becomes the leader of the Lion Guard, the protectors of the Pride Lands. As this series is aimed at younger children, it isn't as dramatic or even as wildly comical as the franchise's other entries, opting to instead tell small fable-like stories filled with veiled lessons and messages. Regardless of its age range, this is actually a very good series. Many of its episodes are fairly enjoyable and engaging, with nice little stories that really fit in with the franchise, maybe even more so than some of the other entries. Each episode features an original song, and most of the time, they are actually unbelievably catchy earworms. And the animation, while appearing a little basic and budget at times, is really beautiful and colourful. I can't find too many faults with The Lion Guard, except perhaps for its lighter, safer tone and inability to tell deeply layered stories like that of the original movie. But for its core demographic, it works incredibly well, and with that in mind, this is probably a really ridiculous criticism. But for me personally though, it's not a show that I could find myself getting hooked on or watching every episode of, simply because it's just a little too young. 5. The Lion King's Timon and Pumbaa. As a kid, I absolutely loved this series, which featured the furthered adventures of our favourite jungle-dwelling comedy duo. 20 odd years ago, I found it incredibly fun and absolutely hilarious. In retrospect, however, the show doesn't seem to have the same spark for me, though it is still a fairly amusing obscurity. Though the 2 characters do serve as comedic relief in The Lion King, the comedy in this series is certainly a far departure. While the movie was littered with fart jokes, a lot of the humour in it was more refined, with real heart. Timon and Pumbaa, however, pushes the envelope with edgy, gross-out humour, more in line with the Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon cartoons of the era. The humour is incredibly meta, with many self-referential gags, and many things that just quite simply don't fit in with the Lion King's world. Additionally, the series sees Timon and Pumbaa not only in the African jungle, but travelling the globe, and occasionally finding themselves in indoor settings and coming into contact with zany humans. Despite occasional appearances from Lion King characters such as Simba, Rafiki, and Zazu, it's best not to look at this as a serious or true canonical entry in the franchise, because it opens up too many questions that just make it less enjoyable. At face value, however, Timon and Pumbaa is a very entertaining, easy to watch, and at times highly enjoyable series of bite-sized comedic shorts. Despite lacking the Lion King's dramatic and emotional core, it's all done in good jest, with no disrespect to it. With an open mind, it's just fun to join these characters on their amusing and wacky adventures. 4. The Lion King 1.5, also known as The Lion King 3 Hakuna Matata. The third feature-length Lion King outing works not only as a decent installment to the franchise, but also as somewhat of a follow-up to the Timon and Pumbaa series, maintaining a lot of its gross-out humour and meta tropes as the 2 characters bookend a retelling of the original movie from their point of view. This premise is actually really great, and leads to some wonderful world-building and serviceable gags. I love the depth it gives to Timon and Pumbaa, providing them with a backstory and a wider context to the original movie and its world. However, I feel the movie sometimes goes a little bit too far, with plenty of dramatic moments from Lion King treated somewhat disrespectfully, with gag pieces that mock or lessen the meaning and impact. Yes, it's all done in good fun, but it all feels a little odd and a little too much like a needless retcon for my liking. But again, if you view it like the series as an unconnected piece of tissue, it becomes more enjoyable. That said, it does do a lot of things right. It brings back a majority of the original actors, reuses a few original songs, and even features gorgeous, vibrant animation that is nice to look at. Despite my nitpicks, it's all done in a very charming way with its own warmth and definitely brings back the heart and soul to the franchise and is a genuinely enjoyable movie. 3. The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride. Out of all the Disney straight-to-home media sequels, The Lion King 2 is quite easily the best of the lot. Where The Lion King took inspiration from Hamlet and Macbeth, Simba's Pride took inspiration from Romeo and Juliet, telling a love story of lions from different prides, Simba's daughter Kiara and Scar's adopted son Kovu. It's an incredibly nice story that plays out very well, with likeable new characters, good pacing, exciting moments, and a lovely message, furthering the story of the original beautifully and providing a great, deeply layered character study of Simba in its aftermath. It features a smattering of new songs, most of which are really good. It helps that many of them were written by Lebo M during the production of the original, making them feel and sound totally authentic. The only element missing is the lack of Elton John, Tim Rice songs and Hans Zimmer's score. Simba's Pride does a very good job at living up to, complimenting and respecting the original, and does it almost perfect justice. However, as a result of the enormous budgetary restraints put upon it, it features lesser, cheaper animation and isn't as grand, colourful or epic as its predecessor. Shortcuts are certainly evident, but despite these, it doesn't feel paint by numbers like most of the other cheap calls, but something that was well planned and thought out, maintaining the heart and charm of the original. You can just tell that the filmmakers and artists were fighting tooth and nail to make it as good as possible. With a larger budget, I have no doubt that this could have been something extraordinary. 2. The Lion King 2019. While this may simply act as a carbon copy of the original, doing very little to be different whatsoever, strangely this is a movie I have large admiration for. While many expect Disney remakes to be major divergences from the original, The Lion King shows bravery by staying to a large extent almost exactly the same. However, while songs, story and dialogue may all be the same, these are things that are inherent to the original and what make it so special. They are thus elements that simply cannot be removed, or else in the end this isn't The Lion King. While I agree this movie is far and away from the perfect masterpiece that the original is, and I would always choose to watch that one over this, I had a highly enjoyable time with it. Musical numbers are flatter than the exuberant ones of the original, and the characters may not radiate the same emotion as the traditionally animated ones, but this movie has its own certain charm in the way that it tells the story with realism. I adored the filmmakers' efforts to bring this story, which has been with me for 25 years since I was 3 years old, to new generations in new ways, utilizing incredible, groundbreaking techniques that had me in awe and wonder, experiencing a movie I've watched 100 times almost as if for the first again. In fact, it's these groundbreaking virtual reality filmmaking techniques that make me put this film above the more budget installments, simply for its strenuous focus on quality and precision. The majority of the new voice cast is great, as are the new song recordings, and while there's very little element of surprise here, this is a true experience. And coming in as my #1 favourite Lion King franchise entry, The Lion King 1994. There are some movies that I like to call lightning in a bottle movies, where everything just aligns so beautifully, so uniquely, so incomparably, and so perfectly. Snow White is one, Mary Poppins is one, and The Lion King is one. The Lion King was the first movie I ever saw in cinemas when I was only 3 years old, and it remains to this day one of my favourites of all time. Growing with this movie since childhood, I feel it's so ingrained in my psyche and my very being. I love The Lion King immensely and adore every element. The animation with its gorgeous sun-drenched colours, the characters with their immense lovability and human spirit, and the music with its mix of contemporary pop songs, classically inspired score, and African-infused instrumentation and chants. The talents of Elton John, Tim Rice, Hans Zimmer, and Lebo M make one of the most spectacular calibrations in the history of film music. It's easily one of the most epic, most cinematic, and most moving animated adventures ever. A Shakespearean drama which is gripping, heartwarming, heart-wrenching, and even terrifying. It's a movie that never ceases to give me chills, right from the opening refrain to the closing roar. With a story so deeply moving and so incredibly human, showing the true power of animation as a cinematic art form. The blood, sweat, and tears of those that made this classic shimmer through every single frame, representing the absolute pinnacle or pride of the Disney Renaissance, and without a doubt, the greatest Lion King movie. And at that, it's over to you guys. I want to know your thoughts on the Lion King franchise. What are your favorites? What are your least favorites? How did you feel about the new movie? Fire away in the comments below and let me know. But as always, stay civil down in the Pride Lands. Let's not turn this into an elephant graveyard. Everyone has a different opinion, and if you want yours respected, please respect those of others. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos and you'd like to see more like it in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen, as well as that like button down below for that little extra support. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.